While very few US presidents will ever go down as being particularly fashionable, the evolution of the presidential wrist game over the past century has slowly turned into one of the most intriguing fashion stories of all time. Let's start with Donald Trump. What kind of watch does man with a net worth of $3.2 billion wear? Starting off with yellow gold Rolex Day-Date. Many people call it presidential watch because of the bracelet, which really suits the man like Trump. The Day-Date was first ever automatic watch, showing the date and full written day at 12 o'clock. The watch is currently worth around $19,000. During the Full Send podcast, one of the members of the Nelk Boys gifted something special to Donald Trump. We are talking about rare platinum ice blue Day-Date with presidential bracelet that is currently worth around $100,000. Third watch that we are going to talk about is from one of the most important watch brands in the world. Again, one more yellow gold timepiece from Trump. The Patek Phillipe ellipse has been spotted on his wrist on multiple occasions. Even though it is such a unique watch, it really looks small on a huge man like Trump. Current value of this watch is around $15,000. From the previous watches that we discussed, we can see that he is preferring classy watches, and the next one is no exception. When he was still the President of the United States, he was seen wearing a classic rose gold Vacheron Constantin Historiques, ultrafine 1968, worth little bit over $35,000. Based on the watches that we discussed, we can see that Donald Trump has some unique watches, but he doesn't really seem like a watch guy. But what if we tell you that he has his own watch brand? In fact, it was more signature edition Trump merchandise. The collection was limited to only 20 pieces, and it was only produced in 2016, and shortly after got discontinued. Next up, we have current President of the United States, Joe Biden. The case of Joe Biden is a curious one. At first glance, his fondness for Seiko watches supports the average Joe persona he projects. But a closer look reveals he quietly has a taste for the finer things as well. You might have expected Joe to go with a Day-Date, otherwise known as the President, rather than the simpler steel datejust. Only available in precious metals, the Day-Date would probably be a bit too flashy for Biden's self-styled everyman persona, and maybe it just would have been too obvious. It turns out that he didn't choose it himself, and this watch was a Christmas present from the First Lady. Nevertheless, the all-steel 41mm Datejust with a smooth bezel and a Jubilee bracelet keeps the president relatively down to earth. The watch is currently worth around $9,000. For his victory speech in Wilmington, Biden wore the simple Seiko alarm chronograph, and he'd also been seen with on the campaign trail. The two-tone finish is aesthetic only, and this is a practical, inexpensive quartz watch, but choosing Seiko hints at his watch awareness. He appears to have several such Seiko watches as well as more expensive Swiss ones in his arsenal. The watch itself is currently worth around $250. Next up, we have Omega's Seamaster Diver 300M, and he owns multiple colors of this watch. President Biden is clearly Omega enthusiast. This exact timepiece goes for $3,900. The Omega Speedmaster Professional is one more watch that Joe Biden owns, and he's been spotted on multiple occasions wearing it, and his current value sits around $4,300. President Obama had a lasting impression on the people of the United States, and the world as a whole. With his statesman-like persona and sometimes wacky sense of humor, he will definitely not be forgotten, especially since he was America's first African-American president. But like with most presidents, many people want to know the kind of watch a man of that stature wears. Of course, while Obama was in office, he wanted to be seen as a man of the people. He wore far simpler and less expensive watches, and often US-made. A few years ago, sitting at the Toronto's Invictus Games with Prince Harry, he was seen wearing an elegant dress watch from Rolex, the Cellini. It is definitely one of Rolex's lesser-known and less extravagant models, but is still worth over $10,000. Perhaps Obama's favorite watch, and the one seen most often on his wrist before he became president, is the affordable Tag Heuer Series 1500. It is a simple dive-style watch that also has a touch of elegance, without going overboard. There is also a handy date window at 3 o'clock. Bill Clinton, a lawyer and Rhodes Scholar, was known to wear very understated timepieces during his presidency. For example, Clinton has been pictured wearing a Timex Ironman digital watch while in office, worth $65. Clinton's post-presidency collection has undergone a massive upgrade. He's been seen wearing a Jaeger LeCoultre Master compressor in titanium, which retails for $10,900. Clinton has also been spotted wearing an Lange in Sewn Richard Lange Pour Le Mérite. This white gold watch from the German luxury brand was limited to a run of just 218 pieces and retailed for a sky-high $85,000. Hillary Clinton has often been seen as someone who plays it pretty safe and whose political persona isn't exactly seen as electrifying. That being said, she's a mainstay who has seen sustained success and prestige in American politics as a First Lady, two-time Senator, Secretary of State, and now nominee for President. The watch that appeared on her wrist on multiple occasions is two-tone Rolex Lady Datejust that is currently worth around $7,000. The last living president we will cover is 96-year-old Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is known to have lived relatively modestly in his post-presidency, not taking advantage of all of the perks and monetary opportunities that come with being a former president. A very interesting piece that Carter owned was the Vulcain cricket. Finnish jeweler Keijo Pajinen presented Carter with his Vulcain cricket in 1997, 7 years after he had left office. The tradition of giving a Vulcain cricket to U.S. presidents was started by Keijo's father Jouko Pajinen and continued by Keijo when Jouko died in 2009. While it not known whether Carter ever wore his Vulcain, because there does not appear to be any photo evidence of him wearing the watch, he has been seen wearing an inexpensive piece upside down. This picture of an elder statesman Carter appears to show him wearing a Casio Forester. You can pick up this model for a little bit over $30. Do you like any of the watches worn by presidents of United States? And if you don't, what would be your choice?